Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Progress America Unfiltered. I'm Tyler. I'm here today with Rhett, along with some special guests. We've got Michael and Brad, who are going to talk about something a little later. But first, I'm going to pick Rhett's brain about student debt cancellation and the news that we're hearing from the Supreme Court and their oral arguments yesterday. So, Rhett, can you give us a little bit of a rundown on what's going on in the Supreme Court?
Yeah, for sure, Tyler. And I think that student debt and student loan borrowers across the country are really just waiting with bated breath to see what the elitist Supreme Court is going to do in terms of honoring President Biden's student debt forgiveness plan. And you know what? When this was announced by President Biden via executive order last year, I think there was this overwhelming just sense of relief and applause coming from student loan holders across the country. It was finally the government recognizing the harm of student debt and taking some action to mitigate the effects of that. And then, of course, these the corporate figures across the country that just decided that, you know what, we cannot give an inch to borrowers that are trying to do better for themselves and get a college education. So they were suing the government about this student debt relief that President Biden put forward. And we saw this playing out in the court system as these Republican backed corporations, et cetera, were trying to overdo President Biden's relief plan. And so this was playing out in front of the Supreme Court. And our favorite actors, the Supreme Court justices, were all pretty much playing the role that we expected them to, with our liberal friends on the Supreme Court kind of acting in a way that we would very much align with here at Progress America Unfiltered, I'd like to say. And then, of course, the more conservative members just being themselves too in a way that is just so heart-wrenching every time we have to see it. I will say there was the issue of standing that was brought forward in the case where it's they're talking about what is the standing of these kind of corporate figures to say, you know what, there shouldn't be student debt forgiveness. And then they were talking about this idea of fairness. Is it fair for student debt forgiveness to happen? And of course, student debt forgiveness and fairness to me kind of come in conjunction with one another because forgiving student debt is inherently fair in my opinion. But yeah, it was just a wild couple of hours in front of the Supreme Court. Tyler, do you have any takeaways from what happened?
Yes. Um, it's just another installment in Republican foolishness, which I think we talk about every single episode. It's important to note that it does seem like with the way that the Trump stacked courts are right now, we've got, six Republicans on the court. It does seem like they are going to do everything in their power to find even a nugget in these arguments to, justify taking away Biden's student loan forgiveness plan, which is unfortunate. And, you were talking about fairness, and I do want to point out that in terms of fairness, this isn't just for current college students or people with student loan debt. I don't have any student loan debt, and I think that it's extremely important that this plan is passed because it helps millions of Americans. And the Roosevelt Institute actually did a brief that shows that canceling up to $50,000 of student loan debt per borrower would increase the wealth of Black Americans by 40%. And so we also have to know that this isn't just an education issue. This is a racial issue. This is an economic issue, and this is an equality issue. And so it's pretty disappointing to know that the Supreme Court is going to do what the Supreme Court is going to do, but that doesn't mean that the fight is over. I've been doing some research and reading because I'm really curious to see what's going to happen. And, the Biden administration and Congress do have options at their disposal to keep student debt relief alive and keep it in play. And so I think it's important that we continue to call on our elected leaders to do just that, and don't let this stop at the Supreme Court, even though we know that the HEROES Act gives the Biden administration the authority to, and the Secretary of Education the authority to forgive student loan debt on a wide scale basis. The Supreme Court is going to kind of cherry pick and decide that maybe they can't. That doesn't mean that's the end of this fight. And I hope that we'll see a different path forward instead of just giving up on the idea altogether.
Exactly, Tyler. And you know what? If this is an issue that is overturned by the Supreme Court in this instance, I think that it is exactly right that we need to definitely put the pressure on President Biden, on Congress to keep this issue alive. I think about all these organizations, like many student-run organizations that are fighting to make sure that student debt cancellation, one, happened in the first place, but two, protecting it and hopefully expanding it in the future. like Rise comes to mind, which is an awesome student-led organization, and all of these just really like phenomenal groups that are making sure that there is going to be more justice in policy as we progress on this topic. And like, I think that something that kind of overarches this topic is like, we think of President Trump as just like somewhat of like this like wild figure that was in office. But it's important to recognize, I think, that he was very effective in getting these very conservative right-wing justices, not only on the Supreme Court, but courts down the scale as well, these federal courts. And those people can have lasting harm on this country. So although like Donald Trump may be like a disorganized mess, as we saw time and time again, the people that were definitely employing him to put those figures on these courts to keep this harm alive, that's going to last far longer than Donald Trump. And we're seeing the effects of that now, and we'll continue to see them in the future.
Absolutely. And to take something that Mike Phelan, who is on this call, said earlier in one of our meetings this week, you know, what we can't let happen is this be another instance of like Democrats are ineffective or Democrats can't do stuff. We are doing the stuff. And so what we need to do is keep doing the stuff and show that, you know, they're trying to undo what we are actually doing. And we can. And there are amazing student advocates out there who are already formulating next steps, and they're much smarter than I am. So I know we're going to make it happen.
Exactly. Gosh, no, that's like really reassuring though, is like to think about like how politically active like all these college students are right now. Like that is like, I think that is what we are holding as just like the really exciting thing for us to look for in the future is like these people. And I'm saying like college students as if I didn't graduate less than a year ago, but it's just really exciting to see this continued work. And we have Mike Phelan, who just brought up on this call with us today. He's going to talk with us about our exciting new topic that's coming up in a few
Wait,
segments.
before we
But
get to the new topic, I
yeah,
really
he's
do
going
want to
to,
hear from Michael's perspective about this student debt issue, because I know he's got a lot of policy info on this. So do you want to give us some highlights?
Yeah, I mean, so there's one thing that I just think is super important for people to know, and that a lot of people don't know, and I didn't know until I started working on the student loan cancellation fight, which is that just as Roberts brought up, like, well, how is this different from somebody taking out a loan to get a lawnmower for their lawn company? And I think like the big difference is that if you get a loan from for a lawnmower, you're getting a loan from a bank or from a credit card company or whatever. It's like there's some financial institution that is on the other side of that loan. With student loans, 96% of them and all of the loans that were involved in Biden's cancellation plan are owned by the federal government. So there's nobody on the other side of that except for the people. And instead of like, they say, oh no, it's a $200 billion like transfer from somewhere. It's not. It's just taking a spreadsheet and turning some numbers to zero. And that's it. That's
Yeah.
student loan cancellation. There's nobody on the other side of it. There's nobody that's harmed by it. So that's all.
And Biden has the legal authority to do it, which is the thing they're trying to act
Yes.
like he doesn't. He clearly does. He used the HEROES Act during the pandemic, and nobody had anything bad to say about it then. But now that we're,
Yeah.
helping millions of borrowers, especially Black and Brown borrowers, we've got some issues. But yeah, I agree. It's really important. Unfortunately, this was just oral argument, so there won't be a decision for some time. When it is, we might not be shocked at what it is, but hopefully by the time we get the decision, we'll already have the next steps lined up to further the fight for student debt cancellation.
that's exactly right. And yeah, as Mike Phelan said, turn those numbers to zeros on that spreadsheet, federal government. Let's make this happen for students and for past students all across the country and really make a difference in the lives of the American people. It's a really great step. And I think also while we have Mike Phelan on this call, we also have Brad Herring. So these two are our lovely producers. They're some of our lovely producers. And they were pitching Tyler and myself about this idea of March Madness and TV presidents. And so, as somebody that doesn't know a lot about football, doesn't know a lot about March Madness.
March Madness is basketball, Rhett.
No.
Yes.
Not me
Don't
learning
worry.
that here.
It's okay.
Anyway, cut that. Just kidding. We should keep that. Yeah, so Brad and Michael are going to talk to us about March Madness now.
Both of us at the same time.
Yeah, let's hear from Brad. Brad, we've got fictional presidents. Let us know what we're about to do over the course of the next few weeks.
Okay, so over the next few weeks, we've broken down a list of 32 of the finest fake presidents in either TV or movies, and we've sorted them into 4 different categories. So you're going to be voting the number 1 seed against the 8, just like in basketball against the last seed, 2 against 7, and then at the end, we're going to have the ultimate fake president, hopefully just by the end of March. So I'm going to start off with, we have 4 sections. In basketball, they organize them by area. We're going to do it by category. So we have evil presidents, disaster presidents, funny presidents, and what we call hopium, which are like the ideal presidents that we sort of dream on. In the first category, I'm going to start with evil presidents. The number 1 seed is, I think, a little controversial pick. It's from the show 24, Charles Logan, who's the president, played by Gregory Itzin. He was, well, we'll get into that later. Number 2 seed is from Futurama, Richard Nixon's head. Number 3, House of Cards, Frank Underwood, played by the wonderful Kevin Spacey. We all love him. Number 4 seed is Deterrence, a film from the early 2000s starring Kevin Pollak, playing President Walter Emerson. Number 5, Love Actually, president played by Billy Bob Thornton, the cleverly named The President. Number 6 is from Don't Look Up, which many of you remember recently, Meryl Streep playing Janie Orlean. Number 7, Primary Colors, John Travolta playing President Jack Stanton. And the number 8 seed is from the show That's My Bush, Timothy Bottoms playing the all-too-real President George W. Bush.
And as a caveat, do we want to explain why, Michael, can you explain why we're keeping George W. Bush, who was a real president, but in this case is a fictional president?
Well, That's My Bush was a show from the creators of South Park. It was a live action sitcom, 3-camera, hijinks in the White House. And so it was like a pretty fictionalized version of George W. Bush before he did all the torture and the Iraq War. It got canceled right after 9/11. But, George W. Bush, he's always going to be evil to me.
A fun story about that. That was actually pitched during the 2000 election by Trey Parker and Matt Stone. And they were going to do one no matter who won. Then it took several months to figure out who actually won, so they had to put production on hold for a while.
Oh, wow. So that's why he counts as a fictional president, even though he was a real president, so I don't want to hear any comments saying that he doesn't count. Let's hear the next category. Who are the disasters presidents?
You want to go for that, Michael?
Sure. So over in the disaster region, the number 1 seed, no surprise, is Bill Pullman in Independence Day as President Thomas Whitmore. Number 2 seed, Harrison Ford in Air Force One as President James Marshall. Number 3 seed, Deep Impact's Morgan Freeman as President Tom Beck. Number 4, Jamie Foxx in White House Down as President James Sawyer. Number 5, President in both Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen, Aaron Eckhart's Benjamin in both Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen is Aaron Eckhart as Benjamin Asher. Failsafe, Henry Fonda as the unnamed President of the United States. In number 7, in 2012, Danny Glover as President Thomas Wilson. And the number 8 seed, Designated Survivors, Kiefer Sutherland as Thomas Kirkman.
I'm not going to lie. I have not seen a lot of this section, so I think I have a lot of movie and TV watching to do before voting.
It's a very strong category. Very strong.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the ultimate winner comes out of that region.
So next we've got comedy presidents. Who are our comedy presidents, Brad?
So we have what I think is the number 1 seed of all from Idiocracy, played by Terry Crews, Dwayne Elizondo, Mountain Dew, Herbert Camacho. Number 2 from Veep, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, playing Selena Meyer. Number 3, Dr. Strangelove, Peter Sellers playing one of several characters in that, including the president, Merkin Muffley. Number 4 seed, Mars Attacks, Jack Nicholson playing President James Dale, also playing multiple characters in that one. Number 5 seed from Head of State, Chris Rock playing President Mays Gilliam. Number 6 seed, Canadian Bacon, Alan Alda playing the President of the United States. Number 7 seed, the movie First Daughter, Michael Keaton playing President John McKenzie. And number 8 seed from a movie that I shockingly have on DVD, from The Contender, Jeff Bridges playing President Jackson Evans. That's a little bit of a marginal play as a as a comedy, he's not really, he's funny in the movie, but it's not really a funny movie. It's a drama about the picked to be the first female vice president and a sort of slut shaming incident involving her. It's a good movie.
Actually, I think I do remember that movie. That's been a while. That's a rewatch.
It's the year 2000, before some people were born. Then over in the hopium category, our final region, we got the number 1 seed. No surprise there. Again, Martin Sheen as President Josiah Edward Bartlett from The West Wing. Then number 2, another Sorkin joint. Michael Douglas in The American President as President Andrew Shepard. Number 3, Kevin Kline playing Dave Kovic / President Bill Mitchell in Dave. It's a presidential impersonation movie, so the crediting is a little complex, but he invented the jobs guarantee. In the 4th seed, Dennis Haysbert as the first president on the show 24, David Palmer. Number 5 seed, Scandals, Tony Goldwyn as President Fitzgerald Grant III. Number 6, just in time for the Genaissance, President Mackenzie Allen, played by Gina Davis in Commander-in-Chief. Number 7, James Earl Jones as Douglas Dillman in 1972's The Man. And our final one, the 8th seed in the Hopium region, is Cherry Jones as Allison Taylor on 24. So 3 24 presidents.
I feel like of the list, this is the one I'm most comfortable with because in my high school AP government class, we watched The West Wing like as part of the curriculum. And I'm like, shout out to my public high school for that one.
That's amazing.
Sure.
Fund your public schools, everybody.
No,
so
that was
true.
part of the curriculum.
We should not have to rely on the West Wing for this sort of thing.
Also, I love, and I have to shout out the fact that both of you have DVDs that you had readily available. That's amazing. I haven't seen a DVD in a while, so that was very amazing and impressive to me.
I would also
Tyler, I also loved our shared reaction to the scandal president, Fitzgerald Grant III, like seen and heard on that one.
Yeah, I'm going to skew the results towards him. I love him.
Oh yeah, I'm going to vote a bunch of times.
I would also note that only one president in this entire list actually cut Social Security during his time in office, and that was from the West Wing, President Bartlett.
We don't know what Jack Nicholson was up to during Mars attacks before the invasion.
That's true.
That's true. He was kind of a loose cannon.
Use your imagination, people. So here's how it's going to work. You've met all of our candidates. You've heard about the seeds. So what we're going to do is every week on Progress America Instagram, so we'll have the tags somewhere up here, maybe down here, for you to follow. I think it's just at Progress America. You can follow. We will have stories every week where you can vote, just like March Madness. We'll have our matchups. You can vote people out, and we will do this every week until we find our number 1 fictional president. Your vote is your voice, people. So if you don't follow us and you don't vote in the Instagram stories, you will not get a say, and I will make Tony Goldwyn from Scandal win. And if you don't want that to happen, you need to get on our Instagram and vote. I think that wraps it up for this show. Any last thoughts from anyone? All right.
Your vote is your voice. So
your vote is your voice. Please vote. Follow us on Instagram, and we will see you next time at Progress America Unfiltered. Bye, everyone.